Welcome to Whispers After Midnight. If you love dark, unsettling stories that make you double-check the locks on your doors, you're in the right place. On this channel, I narrate the creepiest stories I can find, from chilling Reddit posts, eerie creepypastas, unsettling subscriber submissions, and mysterious old folk tales that have been whispered about for years. Now, quick disclaimer. There's no proof that these stories are real. Some might be true, some might be exaggerated, and some might just be stories people tell when the world gets a little too quiet at night. But real or not, they're all terrifying. So tonight, do yourself a favor. Turn the lights off, grab a snack, maybe pull a blanket a little closer, then sit back and listen. If you enjoy the stories, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me what kind of stories you want to hear next. Your ideas might even become the next story featured on this channel, because around here, the best stories are the ones whispered after midnight. This started because I needed a car. Nothing dramatic, nothing deep. I was just tired of driving something that felt like it was falling apart every time I hit the highway. I'd been saving for a while, checking the usual places, dealerships, marketplace, auctions, all of it. Prices were insane. Everything decent was way out of my range, and everything cheap looked like a problem waiting to happen. So one night, way too late, I ended up somewhere I hadn't been in a long time. Not the regular internet, a few layers deeper. I knew how to get there. I'd done it before, and I told myself I was just browsing, just looking around. Most of it was exactly what you'd expect. Stolen electronics, fake IDs, weird listings that didn't make sense, unless you already knew what they were. I was about to log off when I saw it. A Tesla. No model listed, no flashy title, just a simple post that said, "Vehicle, clean, no questions, no updates." That was it. No price on the main page either. You had to click into it to see more. I remember thinking it was probably a joke or some kind of bait, but I clicked anyway. The photos loaded slow. Dark garage, matte black Tesla, looked like a Model 3 from the shape. Clean exterior, no damage. Interior looked untouched. The screen was on in one of the pictures. No warning lights, nothing obvious wrong. Then I saw the price. $9,800. I actually laughed. There's no world where that's legit. A Tesla for under 10 grand doesn't just happen. I should have closed it right there, but I didn't. I kept reading. The description was short. Vehicle is functional, autonomy enabled. Do not connect to network. Do not attempt ownership transfer. Payment final. That was all they gave. No seller name, just some random ID. No reviews, no history, nothing to make you feel safe about it. Just a message button. I don't know why I hit it. I kept it simple, just asked if it was still available. I expected no response. They answered in under a minute. Yes, that was it. No extra info, no questions back, just yes. I asked where the car was. They sent an address right away. Industrial area outside the city, maybe 40 minutes out. I recognized the area. Lots of storage lots, warehouses, places that don't get much attention. Then they sent one more message. Bring full amount. You test, you leave. No negotiation, no back and forth. It didn't feel like a normal sale. It felt like they didn't care whether I showed up or not. I stared at the screen for a while after that. Every part of this was off. But the price kept pulling me back in. I told myself it was probably stolen, maybe locked to someone else's account, something like that. Still risky, but not impossible. I convinced myself it was worth checking out. Next day, I pulled the cash, almost 10 grand, stuffed it into an envelope, and drove out to the address they gave me. The place looked exactly like you'd expect. Big open lot, chain-link fences, a couple broken lights even though it was daytime, wind pushing dust across the ground. No people anywhere, and there it was, parked near the far end of the lot. Same matte black Tesla from the photos. No one standing near it, no office, no sign of whoever I was supposed to be meeting. I sat in my car for a minute, just watching, waiting for someone to come out. Nothing moved. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. It's unlocked. I looked back at the Tesla. Still no one around. That should have been enough for me to leave, but I didn't. I grabbed the envelope and got out. Walking toward it felt off. The place was too quiet. No traffic noise, no voices. Just wind, and this faint electric hum that I couldn't place. When I got close, the handle extended on its own. I hadn't touched anything. I stopped for a second, just staring at it, then opened the door. The inside smelled brand new. Not just clean, actually new. The screen was already on, map open, no destination set. At least, that's what I thought at the time. I sat down slowly, checked the back seat, empty. Glove box, empty. No paperwork, no registration, nothing that told me who owned it before. My phone buzzed again. Tested. I didn't question how they knew I was inside. I pressed the brake, the car came to life, and I put it in drive. It moved smooth, quiet. Nothing like anything I'd driven before. I did a loop around the lot, then another. Steering felt tight, acceleration instant. Everything about it felt perfect. For a minute, I forgot how weird the situation was. It just felt like I'd found something I wasn't supposed to find. I pulled back to where I started and stopped. My phone buzzed again. You're done. I looked up. Still no one. I don't even remember making the decision. I just grabbed the envelope, stepped out, and placed it on the ground beside the car like they told me. Got back in and closed the door. That was it. No handshake, no confirmation, nothing. I remember thinking how strange that was. But at the same time, I was already picturing myself driving it home. I put the car in drive and turned toward the exit of the lot. That's when the steering wheel tightened. Not locked, just resistant. I tried to turn a little sharper toward the gate, and it corrected itself, smooth and subtle, like it knew where it was supposed to go. I frowned and looked at the screen. That's when I noticed the route. A blue line already set. I hadn't touched anything. I reached over to cancel it, but the screen flickered for a split second and came back with the route still there. Now there was text at the top. Route accepted. Not selected. Accepted. I pressed the brake. The car slowed, but not the way it should. I pressed harder, and it felt like something was pushing back. Then I eased off. and the car kept rolling forward on its own. That's when it really hit me. My foot wasn't controlling the car anymore. I grabbed the wheel and tried to steer off the road just to test it, and it fought me. Not aggressively, but enough that I knew I wasn't the one in charge. The screen flickered again. Then a message appeared. Manual control denied. And that's the moment I realized I didn't just buy a car. I got into something that was already in use. I didn't move for a second after that message. Manual control denied. I just stared at it, like if I looked long enough, it would change into something that made sense. It didn't. The car kept rolling forward, smooth and steady, like nothing was wrong, like this was normal. I pressed the brake again, harder this time. The pedal pushed back just enough to let me know it wasn't mine anymore. The car slowed slightly, then held its speed like it had decided that was enough input for me. Okay, I muttered, trying to stay calm. Just pull over. Just stop the car. The Tesla didn't respond. It merged onto the main road, clean, perfectly timed between two cars like it had planned it in advance. I hadn't signaled, hadn't checked anything. It just did it. My hands were still on the wheel, but it felt useless. Like I was pretending to drive something that had already made up its mind. I reached for the screen and started tapping everything. Navigation, controls, settings, anything that looked like it could override whatever was happening. Nothing reacted. Not frozen, just ignoring me. Then the display dimmed slightly and changed. The map pulled back, and a small black box appeared in the center. It looked like a chat window. For a second, nothing happened. Then text started appearing. Relax. It showed up like someone was typing it live. Before I could even process that, another line popped in. You're on schedule. My chest tightened. Who is this? I said out loud, my voice sounding smaller than I expected. There was a short pause. Then, you shouldn't have logged in. I didn't log into anything, I snapped. I just bought the car. That's it. The response came instantly. You're active. I stared at that word. Active. It didn't feel like it was talking about an account. It felt like it was talking about me. I grabbed the door handle and pulled. Locked. I hit the unlock button. Nothing. Tried the window. Didn't move. The car picked up speed slightly, just enough to make it clear that getting out wasn't an option. Listen, I said, forcing my voice steady. You can have the car. I don't care. Just stop it and let me out. The typing bubble blinked. Then the reply came in. You are the root. That one hit different. What does that even mean? I asked quietly. No answer. The chat box disappeared like it had never been there. And the map expanded again, taking over the screen. That blue line stretched out in front of me, longer than I expected. It zoomed out slightly on its own, showing the route leaving the city, pushing out into areas I didn't recognize. The battery said 68%. For some reason, that number stuck with me. Then I saw lights in the mirror, red and blue. Relief hit me instantly. Yes, okay, good. I lifted my hands slightly off the wheel, like they could already see I wasn't doing anything. Pull over, I said to the car. Just pull over. It didn't. The lights got closer. Come on. Nothing. The Tesla sped up, just enough to avoid slowing down. Not fast, not reckless, just controlled. Like it was ignoring the situation completely. "Don't do this," I muttered, pressing the brake again. Same resistance, same useless feeling. We took an exit without signaling, sharp and smooth. The cruiser followed. Okay, they'll stop us up here," I said, trying to convince myself. The road narrowed. Fewer cars, then none. Industrial buildings started showing up. Fences, empty lots. Something about it felt familiar. Too familiar. Another turn, then another. The lights behind me stayed right there, close, steady. Then suddenly, they were gone. No turn, no fade, nothing. I twisted around in my seat, looking back down the road. Empty. Completely empty. "That's not real," I said under my breath, but I already knew it wasn't. The car slowed slightly. Not stopping, just easing down like it was approaching something. My breathing got shallow. "Where are you taking me?" The map zoomed in again. Closer, closer. Then I saw the destination. No address, no name. Just a pin. Under it, one line. "Finalizing delivery." "No," I said immediately. "No, stop. Stop the car." It didn't listen. We turned into a wide lot surrounded by fencing. Floodlights overhead, most of them off, a few flickering weakly. Shipping containers, rows of them. Stacked high, stretching out in every direction. The car rolled between them slowly, like it knew exactly where it was going. Then it stopped, right in the middle. The screen went black for a second, then came back with one line. "Delivery complete." A soft click echoed through the car. The doors unlocked. I didn't move. Every instinct I had was telling me not to open that door. I looked around. Nothing. No movement, no people, just containers and shadows. Then I saw headlights. Far ahead, between the rows, another vehicle pulling in. Slow, deliberate. My hands started shaking. "Okay, think. But there wasn't anything to figure out anymore. The car wasn't moving. The doors were unlocked. And something was coming. I looked back at the screen one last time. The route history opened on its own. A list filled the display. Dates, times, durations. Every single one marked the same way. Delivered. None of them said returned. None of them said canceled. Just delivered. The headlights got closer, bright enough now to cut through the gaps between the containers. I reached for the door handle and stopped for a second. That's when it finally clicked. The car was never what was being sold. The listing, the price, the instructions. None of that was about a vehicle. It was about access. And the second I sat down in that seat, I became part of it. Part of the route. Part of the delivery. The engine of the other vehicle idled somewhere ahead, waiting. I swallowed hard, wrapped my hand around the handle, and pulled the door open. Because at that point, staying inside felt worse than whatever was waiting for me out there. This one isn't about something supernatural. There's no ghost, no creature hiding in the dark. Everything in this story is real, or at least it felt real enough that I haven't touched that part of the internet since. I used to think I was smarter than most people who ended up in trouble online. Not smarter in an arrogant way, just cautious. I didn't click random links, didn't chase shock content, didn't go looking for anything illegal or messed up. That wasn't my thing. What pulled me in was the idea of hidden information. Things that weren't meant to be easily found. Archives, rare data, stuff that had been taken down or buried. I treated it like a system, not an adventure. I only used marketplaces that looked structured. If it didn't have ratings, I left. If it didn't have reviews, I left. If the seller didn't have history, I left. It sounds obvious, but most people skip that part. They wander into whatever looks interesting and then act surprised when it goes sideways. The places I used weren't chaotic at all. That's what throws people off. They expect something dark and messy, but it's not. It's clean, organized, almost corporate. Listings laid out neatly, categories labeled properly, sellers competing for reputation. It felt like a normal online marketplace, just hidden behind layers you don't usually see. The first time I browsed one of those sites, I remember thinking how overhyped everything was. There were no red rooms, no insane content popping up everywhere. It was just people selling things. Data bundles, old databases, cracked software, rare files. A lot of it wasn't even that interesting. So I stuck to what I understood. Archived content, obscure files, digital collections, things that were legal enough to exist, but rare enough to feel like you were getting access to something hidden. And it worked. Every time. I'd find a listing, check the reviews, scan the seller's profile, maybe search their name on the surface web just to see if anything came up. Then I'd buy. The files always matched the description. Delivery was quick, no issues. After a while, it stopped feeling like risk. It just felt like another tool. That's where I messed up. 'Cause once something starts feeling normal, you stop questioning it. I remember the night everything changed pretty clearly. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just browsing, scrolling through listings like I usually did. Most of it was the same kind of stuff I'd seen before, nothing worth clicking. Then I saw one that didn't really stand out, but for some reason I didn't scroll past it. The title was simple. Private Archive. Verified access only. That was it. No buzzwords. No attempt to grab attention. It almost looked like it didn't belong there. Normally I would have ignored it, but the rating caught my eye. 5 stars. Not unusual on its own, but this one had a lot of reviews. Way more than anything else on that page. I clicked it. The description didn't help much. It was vague in a way that felt intentional. It said the content was historical, restricted, and ethically sourced. That last part didn't sit right with me. Nobody uses the word ethical in places like that unless they're trying to convince you of something. I scrolled down to the reviews. That's when I felt the first bit of hesitation. They weren't fake. You can usually tell when reviews are fake. These weren't repetitive. They weren't overly positive. And they didn't read like bots. They sounded like real people. But what they were saying didn't match the rating. One of them said, "I wish I never opened this." Another said, "It's exactly what they claim it is. That's the problem." There was one that just said, "This shouldn't exist." Every single one was 5 stars. That doesn't make sense. If something disturbs people that much, they don't rate it perfectly. They complain, they warn others, they drop the rating. But not here. Here, they were almost respecting it. That should have been enough to close the page, but instead I checked the seller. Long history, high volume, no disputes. Everything about the account looked legitimate. I even went a step further and searched for mentions of the seller outside the site. Forums, threads, anything. There were a few references, mostly people saying the seller was reliable, that their listings were always accurate. Nothing negative. Nothing that raised a red flag. So I told myself it was just another archive. Maybe something rare, maybe something controversial, but nothing extreme. The reviews were probably just people being dramatic. I convinced myself of that pretty quickly. And I bought it. The transaction went through instantly. No delay, no waiting period. That was normal. But what wasn't normal was how fast the file showed up. Usually, there's at least a short delay, even if it's automated. This one appeared almost immediately, like it had already been prepared the moment I clicked purchase. It was just sitting there. No title on the file, no preview, just a string of characters. I hesitated for a second, but I'd already gone through my checklist. The seller was verified, the reviews were real, everything lined up. There was no reason not to open it. Before I did, I ran one last check, just out of habit. Searched again, skimmed through a couple forums, made sure I hadn't missed anything. Still nothing. So I opened the file. At first, it didn't look like anything unusual. Just video files. A lot of them. Organized into folders, each labeled with a date and a location code I didn't recognize. I clicked the first one. It looked like security footage. Grainy, fixed angle, no audio. A warehouse, maybe. Nothing happening. Just a camera watching an empty space. I skipped ahead. Same thing. Different location, different camera, but the same kind of footage. Hallways, parking lots, loading docks. Completely normal. I almost closed it right there, thinking I'd wasted my money on something boring. Then I noticed the timestamps. They weren't old. Some of them were from earlier that day. That didn't make sense. The listing said, Historical Archive. This wasn't historical. This was current. Some of it was only a few hours old. I opened another file, then another. Different places, different angles, all with recent timestamps. It started to feel less like an archive and more like a live collection, like someone was gathering footage in real time. That's when I felt that first real sense that something wasn't right. I kept going anyway, and then I saw something I recognized. I didn't recognize it right away. It was just another camera angle at first. A street, slightly elevated view like it was mounted on a building. Cars passing, a couple people walking. Nothing unusual. I almost skipped it. Then a car drove through the frame, and something about the background clicked. I rewound it. Watched it again. That's when it hit me. I knew that street. Not in a vague way, not like, it looks familiar. I knew it. I'd driven down it hundreds of times. Same intersection, same storefronts, same broken streetlight on the corner that flickers at night. It was near my place, close enough that I could walk there in 5 minutes. I felt this weird pressure in my chest, like my body reacted before my brain caught up. I paused the video and just stared at the screen. trying to convince myself I was wrong. Cities look similar. Streets repeat. It could have been anywhere. So I checked the timestamp. It was from earlier that night, about 2 hours before I bought the file. I didn't like that. I clicked into another folder, scrolling until I found something with a similar timestamp. Opened it. Different angle, same area. This one looked like it was from a parking lot camera, facing toward the street. You could see cars pulling in and out, headlights cutting across the frame. And then I saw something else. My car, parked exactly where I left it. I just sat there staring at it, trying to process what I was looking at. Same dent on the rear bumper, same sticker on the back window. There was no mistake. It was my car. That meant the footage wasn't just recent. It was local, and someone had access to cameras all around my area. I should have shut everything down right there. Closed the file, wiped it, walked away. Instead, I kept going. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or that stupid need to fully understand something once you've already gone too far. I scrubbed through the video. At first, nothing happened. Cars came and went, people passed by, everything normal. Then, about halfway through the clip, someone walked into frame and stopped. They weren't doing anything obvious, just standing there on the sidewalk, facing in the general direction of the camera. But they weren't moving, not like someone waiting or checking their phone. They were just still, watching. I leaned closer to the screen without realizing it. The angle wasn't great, but it felt intentional, like whoever set up the camera wanted that exact spot covered. The person stood there for maybe 30 seconds, then slowly turned their head, not toward the street, toward where my car was parked. They stayed like that for a few seconds, then walked out of frame. That was it. Nothing dramatic, no sudden movement, no clear threat. But it didn't feel random. It felt like I was watching something I wasn't supposed to see. I backed out of the video and started opening files faster, jumping between folders, scanning timestamps. The more I looked, the worse it got. Different locations, different cities, all recent, all from angles that didn't feel public. It wasn't just street cameras or obvious security systems. Some of these were placed in ways that didn't make sense unless someone had direct access. Private buildings, restricted areas, places that shouldn't have cameras facing outward like that. And everything was organized, clean, like a catalog. That's when something else started bothering me. If this was a collection of random footage, why was it structured like this? Why were the folders labeled so precisely? Why did it feel curated? I went back to the main directory. That's when I noticed a folder I hadn't opened yet. It didn't have a date or location code like the others. It just had a name. Active. I stared at it for a second, then clicked. Inside were only a handful of files. All from that night. All from my area. My stomach dropped. I opened the first one. Different street, still close to where I lived. Nothing unusual at first. Then the camera shifted slightly, like it had been adjusted manually, and settled on a view of a sidewalk. Someone walked into frame. It took me a second to realize who it was. It was me, earlier that evening, walking back toward my place. Same clothes, same pace, same everything. I felt this cold rush go through me, like my body just emptied out. It's one thing to see your car. It's another to see yourself. From an angle you didn't know existed. From a camera you didn't know was there. I skipped ahead. Another clip. This one was closer. My building. The entrance. People coming in and out. Then me again, walking up, unlocking the door, going inside. The timestamp matched exactly. I checked my phone out of instinct, like I expected it to tell me something different. Same time, same moment. I was watching myself from earlier that night. I remember actually looking over my shoulder in my room, like someone might be there watching me in real time. That's when I noticed the last file in the folder. No timestamp, no label, just a single video. I hovered over it for a second. Then I opened it. The screen went black for a moment before the image appeared. It took me a second to understand what I was looking at. The angle was wrong. Too low. Too close. Then it adjusted slightly and everything snapped into place. It was my building. Not from across the street. Not from a security camera. From inside. Down the hallway. Facing my door. I felt my chest tighten. The camera was steady, like it had been set down or mounted. There was no movement at first. Just the hallway, dim lighting. Nothing happening. Then, after a few seconds, my doorknob moved. Just slightly. Like someone was testing it. I froze, because I was sitting in that room, watching that video. At the same time, the doorknob moved again, a little more this time. A slow, careful turn, like whoever was on the other side didn't want to make noise. I didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't even think. I just stared at the screen, waiting. Then the video cut. No ending, no explanation, just black. I sat there for a long time after that, not even realizing how quiet everything was. My eyes kept drifting to my actual door, expecting it to move again. It didn't. Nothing happened. No footsteps, no sound, no knock. Just silence. Eventually, I closed the file, disconnected everything, pulled the power. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next one. I checked the locks over and over, replaying that moment in my head, trying to figure out if it had been real, if it had been recorded earlier, if I'd missed something. But the timestamp, there was no timestamp. That's what got to me. Every other file had one, except that one. I never went back to that site, never logged in again. A few days later, I tried to find it, just to see if it was still there. It wasn't. No trace of the marketplace. No mention of the seller. Nothing. Like it had never existed. I still think about those reviews sometimes. I wish I never opened this. It shouldn't exist. It's real. I get it now. Because whatever I bought wasn't an archive. It was access. And I have no way of knowing if I ever really closed it. And that's where tonight's story ends. I hope you enjoyed the video and the story we shared tonight on Whispers After Midnight. Just remember, the internet has a lot of dark corners. And the dark web is one place you definitely shouldn't mess around with, unless you're ready to find things you can't unsee. If you liked this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if there's a specific type of story you want to hear, dark web encounters, creepy jobs, strange neighbors, haunted places, leave a comment below. Your idea might become the next story featured on the channel. Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, the best stories are always told after midnight.